For some reason.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming to our November meeting of the Patterson Park Neighborhood Association. Before we get started, I just want to do a quick introduction. My name is Ernest. I am the president of Patterson Park Neighborhood Association, and with us are some of your board members. Over here we have Kelly, who is the president of the South Sector, and Nate, who is the treasurer, and Elena, who is the secretary. And do we have anybody who, I see Colin is online. Colin, the VP of the West Sector. I don't know if any of the others are on here. Okay, they may be joining a little bit, but I have some issues that I wanted to share with them. But anyway, just real quick, is there anybody who's here for the first time? Your first PPNA meeting? Yes, we're talking to you. And everybody else is a repeat customer. Okay, fantastic. So without further ado, we just have two official items on the agenda here. One is a visit from people to talk about the Red Line. Kimmy, what agency are you actually with?
We're here with MTA, the Red Line Project Team.
Okay, got it. So Kimmy is here from the Red Line team. Full disclosure, she and I went to grad school together, but going to be nice to her necessarily.
And I lived in the neighborhood for 12 years.
But actually, I am going to be nice to her because I really like the Red Line, and I hope you all do too. Then the other item on the agenda is just a little bit to tell you about the progress with the grants that we are working on. So, without any further ado, Kimia, the floor is yours. And let me just share screen so that we can put the PowerPoint on.
Sure.
So,
I'm gonna come closer.
I'm gonna do it like that, and then.
I feel like I've been sitting all day, so I'm gonna stand.
Just real quick, people on the Zoom, do you see this presentation right now? Baltimore Red Line? I need somebody to say it verbally because we can't see you right now.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right. Do you want me to do this?
No, I can do it.
Okay.
Where's the camera? Am I gonna block their view? That's fine. Hi.
They're not looking at the camera right
Great,
now. They don't
fantastic.
see that.
Hi, I'm Kimmy Darrell. I'm with the Red Line team, which is part of MTA, so the MTA. And I'm excited to give you an update. But before I get started, who in this room, this is like a judgment-free zone, who either attended one of our open houses in October or looked at the materials online? Oh my gosh, you're killing it already. So some of this may feel a little familiar. Think of it as a jumping off point. Mark and I are going to move through several slides. We never want to assume that this is not someone's maybe first time even hearing about the project. So some of you, this will be very familiar. For others, think of this as a bit of a 101. And we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. So what is the Baltimore Red Line? This is a proposed high-frequency, high-capacity light rail transit line that will run from Woodlawn in Baltimore County on the west through downtown and end at Bayview on the east. This is a major investment in transit. Think of this as premium transit. And this is serving a corridor that has a lot of demand, but currently lacks the direct connectivity and access that it needs, that it deserves, and that would support a thriving corridor of communities. This project has a really deep background. We could have this timeline go even earlier, but that just starts feeling a little bit crazy. But over the past 20 plus years, this is a corridor that has been identified again as needing, deserving this level of transit investment. It was identified in 2002, began the environmental review process and design process, was awarded federal funds, and was moving towards full funding grant agreement from the federal government to get half of the project costs. And then in 2015, then Governor Hogan canceled the project, and that also canceled the environmental document that supported the project decisions. Flash forward to 2020, the project was once again identified as being needed and advanced through another feasibility study to confirm that need. And in 2023, Governor Moore relaunched the Red Line as the Red Line, and here we are today. Earlier this year in June, the governor announced that light rail is the mode recommended to advance further. This slide, think of this as like this fall engagement push. So we now actually have even more open houses, more pop-ups, more folks reached. But this is really just to give me a chance to tell you that we've been very active out in communities over the past year or so at this point. And I don't expect you to read all these comments, right? All of this is on the website as well. But this is really just showing we've been listening, right? We've been listening, we've been collecting comments, we're still collecting comments, and we'll get to that a little bit later. And talking with people all through the corridor to understand communities' priorities, neighbors' needs. We also launched the community advisory team in June. That was after an application process. We had hundreds of folks apply to join this, again, corridor-long team that is partnering with our project team to help us to reach communities, present information in ways that is approachable and accessible. So I think I'm handing it off here to Mark to talk a little bit about the mode selection.
All right, thanks, Kimmy. I'm Mark Roberts. I'm also with the Red Line team. And if I miss anything, please jump right in. So first of all, as you are aware probably, that light rail was the selected mode. The mode recommendation came about for a number of reasons. A lot higher capacity and twice the projected ridership compared to bus rapid transit option. It is obviously a higher capital cost initially, but the annualized capital cost per trip is lower because you get so many more riders. More reliable travel times, and it serves more folks in that need a good public transit option. And the community has expressed a lot of support for it. So that option, going to light rail, is already chosen. And what is light rail? Of course, you know about central light rail, and this will be similar, but with key differences. This is showing a typical station that would be in a median. This might be, for instance, along US 40 or Boston Street, if that option were chosen. There's other types of stations, but this is just to show you, some of the features like enhanced crosswalks, wayfinding signage, real-time information when the next trains come in, obviously fare machines, surveillance for security, and fencing. These will be various amenities that will be in any given station along the Red Line alignment. And this, as Kimmy said, this is a major investment, and one of the biggest reasons is economic development. So there was a study done by the American Public Transportation Association that says for every dollar you put into public transportation, you get $4 out. And it's projected that this project will either create or sustain up to 50,000 jobs across the region. And so plugging people in from where they need to get to jobs is a huge factor on this project. And where are we at today? So today, we're still analyzing alternatives. There are three. Alternative one is quite similar to the 2012 preferred alignment. Features are that it runs along I-70 inside the Beltway, that section of I-70. It runs in two tunnels. Most of it's on the surface, but it runs in a tunnel under Cook's Lane and also through downtown and Phelps Point. And then it runs along a transit way along Boston Street. Alternative 2A, some similarities, but on the west, it runs along Security Boulevard, not I-70. And it runs along Baltimore Street and Lombard Street as a transit couplet, meaning, Lombard Street would be the one direction, and then Baltimore Street the other. And then in Fells Point, it would run along Eastern and Fleet Street also as a couplet. Eastern Avenue would be westbound and Fleet would be eastbound. And this option also runs all the way along Fleet and Eastern as that couplet all the way out to East Baltimore. And then there's alternative 2B, very similar to 2A, except that when it gets to the end of Fells Point at Chester Street, it would turn down Boston Street and find its way over to Bayview via through Canton. So a little bit of a difference there on the east end between 2A and 2B. Did I miss anything on that one? Okay. Oh, Why don't you give this one?
Sure. So you do not need to like instantly click this, but I'm like trying to blaze it into your brains. We are in an open comment period. All of this information and more is on the website right now, so you can take your time through it. There's so much more than we're going to cover in here, but we do want to gather feedback, right? So you can take that QR code, or you can just get it on the website later too, and give us feedback. You can select which segment you want to comment on. Tell us your thoughts, right? This is running until the 25th. So encourage your neighbors to, and I do want to just note, and then I'll hand it back. Our website can be, this is a part of town where there are a lot of Spanish speaking residents. We have the whole website, you can toggle to Spanish. All of the boards are translated to Spanish, as the survey also you can toggle to Spanish or other languages. And there are narrated videos in both English and Spanish that folks can view. So I'll hand it back after that aggressive plug.
All right. Another consideration that the team is looking at now is in Southeast Baltimore, kind of from the edge of Canton up through to Bayview. We are looking at all different kinds of alternatives. And the reason for that is a lot of it over the past 10 years since the last red line iteration, there's been a lot of development, and that's affected where we can and cannot put the new alignment. There's also, of course, many active railroads and interstate highways that create barriers, and we have to bridge over things. So this area is pretty complex, and at the public meeting, we actually had displays where people offered input on where to which roads and options to go down, and we're actually analyzing all those, but what people input there right now. So now I'm not going to read all those, but measures of effectiveness is a way for us to help compare options and select alternatives. A lot of the information is pretty similar. Travel times pretty similar. Ridership. A key one that is different is the total cost. Obviously the option, the alternative one that plans is higher. But yeah, very similar features throughout on all these alternatives.
They all perform well. They're all good investments.
Right. And what's next? So we're working on alternatives. So next up would be to select an alternative. There's some, alternative 1, 2A, and 2B, and there's options that relate to those throughout town. One is out on the west, alternative 2B and 2A run on security, alternative 1 on I-70. Big option is whether to go tunnel or surface at Cook's Lane. That's a pretty important decision there. There's some more various options, even though all three alignments run along Edmonds now, there's smaller sub-options, you might call it, throughout that corridor. A very, very enormous decision is tunnel versus surface through downtown and Fells Point, based on which alternative. So that's being considered, and also which streets in downtown, as you can see here. Like that last board shows, all of the different options in that area of East Baltimore, that in Southeast Baltimore, that's a big thing we're analyzing now. And then once we get up to Bayview, finishing off the alignment there is also something we're looking at. And then the NEPA process, MTA is working with Federal Transit Administration to perform the EIS, and it's going to build upon previous NEPA analyses that were done 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago. And we're coordinating with all kinds of agencies, federal, state, local. We're halfway through the process. It's been initiated. A key element there is developing the purpose and need of the project, which we kind of hit on, economic development, connecting people to jobs, providing a high-level transit option, collecting data and analyzing and beginning to prepare the EIS. We're right in the middle here where we're analyzing alternatives like 1, 2A, 2B, as well as the smaller options throughout town. And then next up would be to publish an environmental document and identifies the preferred alternative, hold public hearings based on that and gather comments and feedback, and then finally publish the final environmental impact decision. So
I want to just pause here on NEPA
Yeah.
for a second too. Is that a thing people in this room, like, are you like glazing over, like, what is that? Yeah, okay. So NEPA, which is the National Environmental Policy Act, this is a law. This law exists because for generations, projects occurred across the country that did not consider the impact of that project on vulnerable communities, historic properties, the environment, right? So when folks say, oh, I'm worried about vibrations, I'm worried about the impacts to a historic property, great, right? That's what we do. We are looking at those things. It is our job as a team to look at a variety of analyses. We can go through all, but there's a whole world of things, and make sure we are identifying impacts and mitigating or removing them. So, and this is a long process, right? We are working hard at it now. We're building on a lot. But when we say give us your comments, it's also that this is a really important, place in our community. This is something that we want to make sure that we're lifting up and celebrating. Whether or not that falls under NEPA or it's just good for us to know, we'd always rather hear from you there. So I just want to put a little bit of a point on that, that this process exists to protect communities from bad investments, right? So, okay, where we're going. We've heard about where we've been in terms of community engagement. In the coming year, there are some big things we're doing, like hopefully identifying alignment, but we're also going to be updating the community compact. In 2008, under the original red line, Baltimore City led an effort to capitalize on the opportunity that the red line provided to think about all of the things, all of the commitments from project partners, not just MTA, that would make sure that this was an investment that would catalyze the type of growth and opportunity that the city needs and deserves. It's a great document. You should look at it. But we're going to update it because it's been a little bit of time, though many of those things still hold true. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And we also think that it's important to update it, not just with Baltimore City, but our partners, our communities in Baltimore County as well. So a nonprofit organization will be facilitating that process, but that's something that we're going to work on next year to make sure that we as a broad region are thinking about all of the things that this project can bring and all of the things that are important to communities that we identify and really put a stake in and commitments around them. We want to keep reaching communities, right? We come out to meetings like this, we hold pop-up events, we go to fairs, we go to festivals, you'll see it at Orioles games, sometimes with swag. But we also, I talked about some of our Spanish and limited English proficiency, LEP populations. We've really increased our capacity, whether it's staff who are bilingual, all of the materials I talked about a little bit earlier, so that we are being inclusive and accessible to all who live, work, travel in this corridor. And then I'd also encourage you to check out our website. I'll keep saying it. And also there you can sign up for our e-newsletter, follow our social media. We actually have some really cool things coming there in 2025. No spoilers. And if you're catching up on the project, all of our prior material is there too. Our last round of boards, the old videos, all of that can be found on our website as well. So I will open up that, we want to work in partnership with community, whether it's, us coming out to you, us coming to an event that you know about that seems like a good place for us to reach other folks. So we want to connect with folks within the neighborhood. And I just open the question before we move on, what are the best ways to reach people in your community? Obviously, this is a way to reach you all in the room, you all on the phone or the video, but do you have a newsletter that we should think about providing information to or something like that? What are the ways that we can better reach Patterson Park?
Walking in the community,
Okay,
talking with the people.
great. Like a walking tour kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Well, not just a tour, just spreading more love. I'm Marlena.
Hi.
I'm Marlena Lovelace. I'm the fashion designer from Mad Behavior. And I love spreading love and uniting and helping each other. So I'm in the field, I'm with the people, and that is like the best way to be able to do so. Tapping in with people and just opening your heart, then you really find out what really needs to be changed.
I agree. And I was thinking like talking to transit riders.
Yeah.
So for example, we've got the blue and orange buses here, talking to bus riders, seeing what they want. You know, and just like Marlena said, talking to people
Yeah.
with an open heart.
Love that. And I will come to you, one of the things we did prior to the open houses, there are about 225 bus stops, I believe, are on the whole corridor that that you can kind of piece together. They're not on one route right now. And we sent folks out to put signs up about the open houses at all 225, and then to talk to transit riders as well, because it's such an important perspective. Go ahead.
I mean, local events, we're winding down because it's starting to get cold.
Sure.
But if you're still looking in the spring, the Butcher's Hill Flea Market
Great.
is in Patterson Park
Yes,
every
that's a
spring.
big event.
And then any of the festivals in the park, obviously. So there's so many.
These are all good things. So reach out to us, truly. If there's something that is happening in your community that would be a good opportunity, it could be two of us, right? Two folks can come out with some flyers on a little table. And we can just talk with folks. That's really what the open houses provided me, tons of staff. And it was so that we could really talk with folks. I've talked about all of this, right? More QR codes, because I'm gonna just make you do these things. But our website, our email, and all of our social media as well. So that's our presentation, because we wanted to leave time for questions. I know many of you came to the open houses, so some of this was a bit of a recap, maybe just getting the juices flowing. What are you wondering? What would you like to talk about? Go ahead.
What percentage of the funding for this project is coming from the federal government?
Great question.
But now that we've entered the nightmare.
So
Are
we are
gonna-
still, we are still working on, and this is true, right? I'm a transparent person. We are still working on our funding strategy. I know that previously we'd been out saying, right, we still plan to apply to the CIG program, Capital Investment Grant Program. It's a competitive funding program through the federal government administered by FTA. And I say competitive, it is competitive. So you have to have a project that has more benefit than cost, et cetera. That is still our plan, and we are a nimble project team. We understand that political winds change, good projects survive, right? So we are looking at the full panoply of funding opportunities. I was at an event at GBC, Greater Baltimore Community, earlier today. There was a wonderful panel of elected folks. Delegate Nielsen, I believe, represents this district, right? Right? Am I right about that?
Or about half of it.
About half of it was there as well. And they were talking to this idea that we have to, as communities, as that group was business leaders, as elected officials, as a team, collaborate to find the ways to keep the project moving forward and be creative about that. So the CIG program can fund up to half of a project, though up to 80% of the cost can be covered by federal sources. So you could have a combination. It's an incomplete answer because it's something we're still working on. And until we make these decisions around alignment, the cost of the project can vary quite broadly as well.
There was a slide that had 5 different stages, and there was
Yeah.
something about us being at the 3rd stage.
Yes.
What's the timeline?
Timeline.
Yeah.
I knew that one would come. It depends. That's an answer no one will like. But so and jump in if I'm getting anything wrong here, but this question on alignments, right? Mark was showing you that slide that had what I call blob 2.0 for Southeast Baltimore. Everywhere else in the corridor, this 14-mile corridor, has a couple of pretty specific lines. And then you get to this last little bit, and it's not that we're not trying hard or we just can't roll up our sleeves. We're looking at every option under the sun there to try to find the best path that balances the most priorities to get through Southeast Baltimore. Until we've solved that problem, which is what we are all hard at work at now, we can't finalize an alignment decision. So that is something we hope to do in 2025. I'm not going to give you a month because I feel like that just curses us. But that's something that we plan to do in 2025. From that, depending on what alignment it is, are there tunnels, right? Are there structures? Once we know that, the project and our funding approach, the timeline will unfold. So in this moment, I have to give you the unsatisfactory, here's the process we're moving through, and it doesn't have dates. But I'd rather say that and you feel a little disappointed than make a promise that we then don't keep and we undermine the trust of the community. But we're working on that and what that funding approach will be, given changing times. Go ahead.
I'm curious, when, sometimes I've gotten frustrated because you take a bus, you pay for that,
Sure.
and then if you're at a light rail, you have to get a light rail ticket. And isn't there gonna be a more simplified way that's a easy,
It's a great question.
way that you don't have to keep figuring out, I'm at the light rail station, so I have to buy that ticket, or I get on the bus and get that pass?
I'll first make a plug for the Charm Pass app. Great. And my understanding, separate and apart from the red line, so I have not as many details. MTA is looking at a fare payment transformation. That sounds really dramatic. In the new year, to start finding better ways to have fare integration, et cetera. It's a priority that was identified, I believe, in the Central Maryland Regional Transit Plan as well, to make it easier to move throughout the region and not just within MTA. But when the red line is implemented and enters revenue service, starts service, it would not have a separate ticketing system, right, than the rest of MTA. It would be the same platform, right? You don't want to have a system that's really clunky. Yeah, that's the intent. Yeah, Ernest.
So, among the different paths that you've chosen, do you know where they plan to intersect with the light rail and the
Yeah.
metro? I saw that there was a station for West Baltimore Mark.
Yes, so there are some really key connections. All of the alignments, all of the options connect at West Baltimore Mark. That's a station which itself is being replaced in conjunction with the Frederick Douglass Tunnel Program. And as they are designing that space, those connections, the bus loop, et cetera, they are making space for and planning around a red line station. So that will be a real transit hub. There's already a lot happening there, and then you get the regional connectivity of MARC and Amtrak. Depending on the alternative, there are more direct connections with the different modes. So for example, on alternative 2B, Surface South, that hugs Pratt Street, you have on the surface, a direct connection, of course, to the existing light rail. Conversely, if you're in a tunnel, it's easier to connect underground with, connections, walkway connections to the existing metro. So it really depends. Hello, friend. It really depends which alignment you are on, which connection is most direct. Though in any case, we would work to have good wayfinding, clear connections, good access between the different modes. And I don't want to leave out, the other bus lines as well, right? You have feeder systems that would want to connect in. Yeah.
I'm curious about section 6 because when I went to the event at the Creative Alliance,
Yes.
they
Oh,
were
that was
like,
busy.
draw your
Yeah.
like way to Bayview. And so I guess, is that not a thing or has it been?
No, that is a thing. It looks like this, and you had lots of markers, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So like what's on that simplified
It's just
docket
a
is
schematic.
not- okay.
Yeah. In the non-shaded version, there's like usually a little bit of an outline there too. This is like very high level schematic. Whereas when you get, sorry if I'm making you all seasick, more into this level of detail, you can see like the specific streets that we're talking about. So, I don't know, Mark, I feel like we're up to like 30 different options at this point that we're looking at. So we are working hard to move through a complicated area. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear about how other projects that are going on play into this, like Perkins redevelopment, you're talking roads through there, Harbor Place on Pratt Street, and then how will acquired right away play into?
Great questions. So we are not at the phase of the project where we can start purchasing right of way or purchasing property or anything like that. In the previous red line, a lot of Baltimore City's contribution to the project was right of way contribution. I don't think I have it in this deck. It's a hidden slide, but it's fine. There are so many other projects happening in this corridor, which is amazing, right? There is a concerted effort in this whole corridor to do amazing projects, and we are working with these folks. We understand that lots of good things brings its own challenges, right? In some parts of the corridor, we're combating a little bit of, I think, meeting and planning fatigue, right? Like, how many public meetings do I need to come to for how many projects? So we're sensitive to that reality. And we're working with those project teams hand in hand. A lot of them are Baltimore City projects. I mentioned Amtrak, other MTA projects as well, the Greenways Trail here. There are, of course, also private development projects that we are working with, right? Folks have their priorities. We are navigating that as well, and trying to find our way through. In some cases, there's now a building, right, with shovels in the ground, say, where we could have previously had an alignment. I don't know that I'm answering your question.
Maybe an easier one is like, if it went down Boston Street.
Yeah.
Would Boston Street stay that way?
Oh, we're just on the street. So, do you want to answer that?
Well, yeah, with the alternative, we're happy to look at the section of the road, and there will be changes certainly to potentially number of lanes or turn lanes, things like that, depending on what street we're on. And for instance, Eastern and Fleet is a good example of the only way to make everything fit is to turn those into a couplet, like we said, with the rail on going one direction on one street and the other direction on the other street, and in combination making traffic the same one direction.
Right.
You can't fit two-direction traffic anymore on a typical, most of the streets in Baltimore are 40 feet wide. And so generally, not all the time, but we're trying to hold that 40 feet and preserve all the sidewalk space. That's like a high priority. But with that 40 feet left, we can't do two-way traffic. So generally, we have to one way. But yeah, we're looking at all these options, street options.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of street reconfigurations and stuff, aside from this project, I'm curious about the Raise project, because I believe we received an email that we'd be discussing that. Is that something that you guys are gonna touch on?
So I actually can answer this. They had to reschedule, but they will be here next month, the Raise project. Yes, I was gonna, you stole my thunder. I was gonna be like, everybody come back to, December because let's discuss the Raise project, but that's the short answer.
Okay, cool. I mean, because it's in our neighborhood. So,
That's right. That's right.
We care a lot about.
Something that obviously I'm passionate about this project, and I always like to just say, we fully know and celebrate that one transit investment, no matter how big and amazing it is, can't solve every community's every need, right? And so as we move this one forward, we're not blind to other corridors' needs, other projects that are also important. And it's our job to make sure we're coordinating with them. But I do think that the red line, a project of this magnitude, can help catalyze people's understanding, right, of what major transit investment can do for economic development, for community support, for access. People talk about access to jobs, so important, but just access to life, right? People also are allowed to be excited to get to family and friends and parks and all kinds of things like ice cream stores. So both are important, and I'm excited that East West Raise team will be here next month. Anything else?
Okay, we do have a.
Oh, there might be questions online.
Chat here, actually, let's do it this way.
Okay.
Because they're long, so we're gonna, can I close this?
Yeah, go wild.
Okay, so, all right, and then, where's my mouse? Okay. Here. There, and, all right. So we have a question in the chat here, and I think it's going to be easiest if you just read it.
Okay. Do I have a sense for which route option is best to offer most pros versus cons south of the park? Do you have or are you allowed to offer some recommendation? Great question. No. So, because I mean, I can have opinions, whatever, but our job as a team, our job as an agency is to hold a process, right? Not to put our fingers on the scale. Our job is to hold a transparent process where we look at the options, we evaluate them in a fair and equal and meaningful way with our measures of effectiveness. And we present that. We present it to you, to neighbors. We present it to our elected officials. We present it to elected and appointed leadership, right? That together, those who make decisions around funding. So no, I won't put my finger on that scale, Colin. But I do think that depending on any one of your, or as a collective, as a community, priorities, different options may seem better, right? From a measures of effectiveness standpoint, they all perform well. Okay, so one of your slides had, do you want to add anything to that? Okay, one of your slides had info about average annual cost per trip. Yep. Ooh, that's such a good question. It deserves such a good answer. So I will come back to you all with an answer on that. I'll make a note about that one.
Can you read out the question?
Sure. So it's one of the slides. It's the measures of effectiveness board, if you go to the website, had information about the average annualized cost per trip. So basically what you're doing is taking the total capital cost, so the cost to build the project, and then you're dividing it by the cost per trip over. It's a way to try to normalize it, right? So you can say over a same period, same approach, what's the cost difference? It's a little bit of a wonky way to think about the cost. Obviously, the option with 2 tunnels is going to be higher than the one without any tunnels, right? So comparing it to the current bus routes and also comparing it to car ownership. Great question. Love it. I'll look into that. I'm going to hand off number 3 to Mark.
Okay. No, I missed
Which is, do these design and integrate multimodal transit infrastructure such as pedestrian walkways and bike lanes?
And the answer is definitely yes. We're at a very high level, picking what street to go down and when we're on a street, how to lay out the street. But what we're our guide, one of our most important guides is the City Complete Streets Guide, which shows you modes of travel preference. You start with transit, pedestrian, bicycle, and single occupant motor vehicles is the lowest in that. So we take that into consideration. We definitely are looking to upgrade all pedestrian facilities along streets that the light rail could go, or the red line could go down, as well as if there's key adjacent, ADA ramps that are missing just off the, off to the side of the proposed line, we'd be looking at that. And then we're also working with the city on bike infrastructure. For instance, the Greenway Trail is an important feature coming to the city, and in pieces, it's already some of it's here. And we're coordinating with them to make sure that the parts of the alignment, for instance, if Boston Street were chosen, we're going to make sure that that comes right along with it. So it'll be on there. So, yeah.
It does us no good to build the best transit ever if no one can get to it, right? So yes, it's I think one of the slides earlier was talking about a complete transportation infrastructure investment. That is the idea. Thanks, Colin. Any other questions?
We do have an email list, by the way, so
Great.
if, in the next week or so, if you have any further follow-ups or if there's anything you want me to share,
Sure.
I mean, obviously we'll share the website, but if there's anything else like that that you want me to give out to all of our email lists, just let me know and I'll make sure to include it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking, not a question, but a comment.
Yeah.
Speaking of just the alignment, the proposed alignment, I feel as somebody that does live north of the park, I certainly would prefer an alignment on Eastern and Fleet. Just so I can have better, so I could use the red line, and I'm sure it probably would help everyone in this room. So, I don't know, I hope it goes down those 2 streets, but we'll see what happens.
Thank you for your comment, and do it as a comment card too.
I got that QR code, baby. Yes.
I have one convert tonight. Thank you all. Be in touch with us, right? You can always reach us. I don't know how to get it back, but outreach@redlinemaryland.com. We'll come to our team. It's a real person that reads them. She triages them. Her name's Audrey. She's amazing. So if it's a very technical question, we get you the right answer. And if it's inviting us back, we get that too. So thank you.
Did Colin get it right there?
Oh, Colin,
All right.
put you on the payroll. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so we just have a couple of other brief items on the agenda, and then I'll just open it up to anybody who wants to talk about anything else. So, as Kalik has mentioned, next month we will be hearing from the East-West Raise project. By the way, does anybody who here knows what the Raise project is? Okay, so let me tell you. You may know that the orange and blue bus lines run east-west on Fayette Street. Okay, and the Raise project is basically a transit project, basically a project to make improvements along there. This includes things such as installing traffic signal priority devices onto the buses, and installing, I forget what the technical term is, but those things that are like bump outs from the sidewalk so that you don't have to like step out onto the street in order to get onto the bus. And the bus doesn't have to veer over to the right in order to pick you up. You can actually just stay on the street and you can just walk out onto a concrete thing and just step directly onto the bus. I forget what those are called. Bus bulbs.
Bus bulbs, that's right.
He's on top of it. So the people who are coming, okay, well, the people who are coming next month will be talking about that. They were originally going to be coming today, and then on Friday, they informed me that they had to reschedule, and so we were bringing them on December. So I'm sorry about the change up on the emails, but I've got a commitment from them to come this December. And then the other thing is, so we have a little bit of news on the grants that we received from the Department of Housing and Community Development. You may remember that we applied for and received a grant for $98,000 to make improvements to improve the environment around our neighborhood. And we have finally, so the way it works is they give us 50% of that money first. And then as the project moves along, we apply and receive the next 25%. And then after that, we receive the next 25%. We have received the first 50%. So here's what happens now. We have a bunch of intersections that we are looking at. Some of them were submitted by you all. And what happens is we are going to be talking with our partners at Graham Projects. Now, I should say that the requirement of the grant is that everything is supposed to be done by December 2025, which is a really fast timeline, and we will see how that goes. But as we are looking at those intersections, what we are going to be doing is also talking to the Baltimore City Department of Transportation to say, all right, are you going to allow us to do this? Are you going to give us the permits to do this? And hopefully they say yes, but they might say like at that intersection, no, you cannot do that. In which case we have to reevaluate. Do we redesign at that intersection, or do we move to another intersection and try to do something there? So unfortunately, I know this is a little bit unsatisfying. I cannot at this point tell you which intersections we are definitely going to be putting up bollards and paint and anything like that. Don't want to do that and then have to come back and say like, no, actually, Department of Transportation put the kibosh on that. At a certain point, we will be coming back to you and saying like, okay, here's what we're thinking, here's what the Department of Transportation has approved, and what are your opinions on that? And there will be some back and forth, as any of you who has ever dealt with the city knows. Sometimes they're a little slow to respond to things, and that's why I'm a little worried about the 1-year timeline, but we are moving as quickly as possible. I actually have a meeting scheduled with Graham Projects later this week. We are hoping to do 3 intersections. Will that actually happen? Well, $30,000 per intersection should be enough, but prices do what prices do. So it is also possible that we can end up with like doing 2 intersections, and then in a third intersection, we do a less fancy design. That's just like solid block colors. So I just want to prepare you all for, any of these things that could happen. And it's my job to report back to you whenever we have a development or a decision to make, and we can all make that decision together. And also, as part of this grant, by the way, we are also getting mobile camera units to try to catch people who are illegally dumping and trash and stuff like that. So we are going to be working to get those camera units, and as soon as we do, we will let you know, and then you can start telling us, hey, you need to put something up at Fayette and Kenwood, or whatever, and we will do that, and, hopefully we'll catch some dumpers. Yes?
So what will it do? What is after you catch the dumpers? What are the penalties? What is the consequences?
That is a question. So there is a unit within DPW, the Department of Public Waste, that investigates and levies fines against these people.
Okay.
So all we can do is say like, hey, this happened here, here's footage. Hopefully there's some identifying information like a license plate or something, and we just turn it over to them, and then they run their investigation. What happens from there, honestly, that's out of our hands.
Is it right though? I'm just saying, these are people who maybe it should be somewhere else they could dump it and more space. I don't know, something. The penalties, first, this is humanity that we're dealing with, and I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I quite understand your question.
Humanity, just following these penalties with people and these fines, then where's that money gonna go to?
I was just thinking, that made me think, maybe there should be something worked out to actually provide a place to put the trash.
Like maybe
Or you know what I'm,
dump,
something like that.
a dump thing on the end of the block every month.
Right.
Because it used to be like that. I don't know if it's like that anymore.
You can take it to the city dump, but they get charged per ton.
Exactly.
That's what I was saying.
And the fines are intended to be more than the dumping fees.
Right. The fines and the penalties where is humanity at this point? Dumping and finding people is not the solution, because then do they have the money to provide it? So that is not the solution.
Some people, I would say, yeah, I'll get you in a second. I would say that some people maybe not. On the other hand, we find that a lot of the people who are doing this dumping is like contractors who have construction materials that they should be disposing of properly, and they should have the funding to do it, and they're just choosing not to. So, I understand your question now, and yes, I think that there can be room to deal with it differently on a case-by-case basis. So we will just have to see what happens when, we're putting the cameras up. Yes, you had a question?
I was just about to say, as a resident, for residential dumping, you can go to the dump, any of the pickup facilities, there's one over on Sisson, there's one over
Right.
Anyway, they're free. They're free, you can go up to, I believe it's like 2 times a week, a carload of whatever you want to dump, and they'll take it, they're awesome, I go there every weekend.
I just got rid of a bunch of old clothes and linens because they do textile recycling now.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
You haven't been.
Yeah. No, usually it's the contractors that are the really big problems.
Yes.
And a lot of them are not city contractors, sometimes they're county.
Yeah. There was one right next to my house, I understand, trust me, yeah. It's just like, it's an organic solution that, that's what it always takes, so. All different perspectives come together.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
This is, I guess not so hard of a pivot, but something that I have noticed related to trash is the community dumpster days that happen a couple of times a year.
Mhm.
And they fill up in
Yes.
a matter of hours. And curious about, is that something we can do either more frequently or get a second second dumpster, like something that kind of, again, like provides the community, people who are having issues, like putting their trash out in a timely manner.
So the city provides each neighborhood 4 dumpsters per year. So if you're looking for free dumpsters provided by the city, we cannot get more than 4. If we want more, there are private companies which will set up dumpsters. We would have to fundraise for it.
Okay.
And I am totally open for doing that. I'm just telling you that is what would need to happen.
Got it.
And where are there 4 in Patterson Park now?
They're rotating days, so it's not like they're 4 stacked dumpsters,
Okay.
there's just like different dumpster
Saturday
days.
morning.
And it happens, so I'll tell you exactly what the process is. At the beginning of the year, I call up DPW and I say, hi, I'm the president of Patterson Park Neighborhood Association. I would like to have my 4 dumpsters. And then they say, okay, we have these dates open, and where do you want them? And the dates honestly are like a little bit restricted because by the time I call, which is usually like January 7, there are like 20 other neighbors that have already called us. Like, you know,
That's
there's
crazy.
only,
Like, it shouldn't even take you, like, this should be done. Like, it's trash, it's 2024.
I'm telling you what the process is.
I don't know, and
So-
it's not on you, it's just like,
Yeah,
wow.
no, I hear you. I would love more. They're one of the most popular things that we do, and I love being out there just like helping people get rid of their stuff. It's one of the pleasures of my job. But you know, we get only 4 of them per year, and by the time I call, which like I said, it's literally the first week of January, they are already like, okay, well, March is all filled up, so your choices are these dates. And we try to advertise like on social media and email when a date is coming up, saying like, okay, it's happening next weekend. It's going to be at the intersection of, I think Fayette and Kenwood was one of them, like right out on Library Square. And we try to spread them out, so like basically in each corner of our neighborhood, we'll get one. And you're right, they fill up really quickly.
And keeping in mind, a lot of stuff that ends up in there is stuff that can be taken to Assisted Street for free. You know, whether or not people can haul it there because they don't have trucks to.
Or put on a Give Ask page.
I mean, they're so good.
You know what I mean? People that don't have a car, 'cause I don't know how to drive, you know what I mean? Lots of people don't drive, they take the bus and have.
One for bulk trash pickup too.
Yeah.
Instead of bulk trash.
Yeah, that usually is like, okay, we will pick it up 8 weeks from now, but it does work.
Yes,
I've gotten rid of
yes.
some stuff that way, yeah.
Yes, it is the plan for when you're getting your
Yeah. All right, that was all I had on my agenda, so I'm just gonna open it up to open comment. Yes.
Hey, so with the incoming presidential administration, a planned mass deportation event, I think it's gonna be really scary for a lot of our neighbors, many of whom can't even make it to this meeting. And I wanna reflect on that. I wanna thank and ask folks here, if there was a Know Your Rights seminar with a local legal aid clinic that could come out to talk at PPNA, talk about what you should be doing or could be doing in the event that ICE comes into your neighborhood, would that be useful to folks?
Damn right.
Yes.
That was my question.
Oh, was it? Yeah, all right, yeah.
My street literally is like 90% Hispanic folks. They don't have a clue what's about to come down. And we gotta figure out how to protect these folks. I don't know what that's gonna look like, whether it's
The
offer
breadth
in my
of-
basement or whatever, people live, I don't care.
In Highlandtown, Breath of God Lutheran Church already has a network and they're already working on it.
Awesome.
According to the radio midday. Anyway, if, they might be a really good like network point, because they might have a lot of those resources and they definitely have like the language and community
Right,
contact.
cultural brokers
languages.
to
Is that Mark's church?
Yes. I was also going to amplify that the mayor's office for immigration affairs has a post-election guide that has a variety of resources as well. It's both legal aid, but also like lots of other types of resources, so not sure what their capacity looks like, but building on if we're trying to educate and empower ourselves to then protect and nurture our community, then we can do something about it.
And what fuck with privilege you do.
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of privilege in this room.
Let's talk maybe January or February.
Okay.
January will be good because it will be before the inauguration.
I prefer January, yeah, because it's gonna be day one, is my word.
Mhm.
But I hear you, I know we have an agenda for other things, but.
Maybe the 13th is our meeting?
Whatever the second Monday is in
Yeah,
January?
13th.
Okay.
So you guys gonna get the legal aid people in here?
I want to reach out to some clinics to see what I can do. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a social worker by training, but I have friends maybe I can work with and folks have connections.
If you put them in touch with me, I will do everything I can to get them.
Or just you and I can talk, and I'll get anybody else who wants my information or wants to coordinate, please let me know.
Thank you, cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any other comments or announcements for the good of the group? Let's see if there's anything. And if you're on the Zoom, just go ahead and unmute yourself and just. Oh, and I see that Cheryl has joined us. I don't know when you joined us, but Cheryl is also one of our VPs, so just want to make sure she is recognized.
We missed you.
Hello. I joined you like 4 minutes after the meeting started, so
Okay. Great to have you, Cheryl. Yes, sir.
great to be here.
You're long. Where I live, East Baltimore, it's at the corner of East Baltimore and North Clinton. Who is the vice president for Patterson Park over that area?
I think that's Cheryl, actually.
Was that Cheryl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is north or south Clinton?
Just south. I mean, I'm at North.
What was
Clinton.
it? What was the address again?
Baltimore and
North
North Clinton.
Right at the corner of East Baltimore and North Clinton.
Unit block North Clinton.
Yeah,
Oh.
so Baltimore is actually the dividing line between the east and the south sectors. So if you were south of Baltimore, then your representative would be Kelly over here. If you're north of Baltimore, it's Cheryl.
Okay.
Local lingo is any block directly north or south of Baltimore is the unit block.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you, Ernest, just comment, thank you for all your hard work.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
In that case, I will leave with just one last thought, which is, PPNA is a 501c3, which means we do not endorse particular candidates. We do not say like we prefer any particular political candidate or another, and I will not do that here. What I will say though is that, first of all, we are in control of what we do here locally, and it is more important than ever for us to all be in touch with each other and look out for each other. And secondly, I was very pleased and encouraged when Question H went down. That was, you may recall, the one that was the ballot initiative that was going to shrink the size of the city council. And I always thought that never made any sense because I like having, city council members who represent only a few people. They are all very accessible. And also, it was an initiative that was, just funded by rich people trying to shape Baltimore city politics. And I want to emphasize how much of a big deal this is because a ballot initiative has not been voted down in Baltimore City in over 30 years. So the people who were behind Question H had reason to believe it would succeed, and it did not. And it's because of people like us, people like all of you. And yes, absolutely. And it's gonna take more of us, connecting with each other, working with each other, talking to each other in order to keep democracy alive. And democracy, I think, really just starts locally. So with that all being said, I think that's reason for us all to be proud of our communities.
Big time.
So thank you all very much for coming, and I will call this meeting to a close.
Cool.
Thank you.